With Ivan Matlekovic's commitment, UNC roster is now surely set. So who's in better shape, the front court or the backcourt?
This is Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Thursday, August 7th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listener watch to get your Thursday going the right way. Special shout out to all you everydayers here with us and all the great members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, as well as our Tar Heels insiders. So glad that you are all here. Joining me today on the show is our good buddy, Coach Bill Robinson, fresh off of being at the Speedway Classic in Bristol, Tennessee earlier this weekend. A lot of fun. We'll actually talk about that later on the show. But Coach Rob is the head coach at Milligan University. He's also a 2-decade veteran of Carolina Basketball School, which is Carolina's basketball camp. He's written this great book about it. Oh, by the way, Carolina Basketball School History, Stories, and Drills. There's a beautiful author picture on the back that's kind of blurry, but not in real life blurry, but on screen right now is blurry. Seriously, folks, if you don't have this yet, I don't know why. It's a great find for all Tar Heels fans and even people who just love basketball, because it's a really good insight into camp and all sorts of stuff. So make sure you check that out. You can grab it on Amazon, or if you want a signed copy, you can email Coach and get it from him. All right, here's where we're headed today on the show. Now that Ivan Matlekovic has committed to Carolina, the roster that we thought was already set is now definitely set, barring, learning who all are going to be the walk-ons and designated student athletes and all of those things. So what we want to do is come to the roster today with fresh eyes and re-look at things. And so we're going to start by looking at front court versus backcourt. Which unit is in better shape? And then in the other two segments of the show, we're actually going to re-look at the depth chart for each unit. What is kind of the order of things as we see it here in early August for the front court? What's the order of things as we see it for the backcourt? And that's where we're headed. Going to have some great insight for Coach Rob. So Coach Rob, excited to get after it here. There are 13 scholarship players. And so what I want to do is just look at the group of 6 of them in the front court, the group of 7 of them in the backcourt, and see who's in better shape. Let me just run everyone through those groupings so that we have them. In the front court, you've got Caleb Wilson, Henri Veesaar, Jarin Stevenson, James Brown, Zayden High, Ivan Matlekovic. In the backcourt, Seth Trimble, Kyan Evans, Luka Bogavac, Jonathan Powell, Dererick Dixon, Isaiah Dennis, and Jaden Young. So, Coach, looking at those two groups, who's in better shape?
I think it depends on what your definition of shape is. I think talent-wise, I think the higher level talent is probably in the front court, and probably the depth is better in the backcourt. And that's kind of how I would look at it right now. If you're looking at it from an NBA scout, view, I think the guys you're looking at are the front court, but I don't think the depth is nearly as good. But I think the quality there is probably a little bit better. The quantity of talent is much better in the backcourt. So that's how I look at it right now. We look at it a little bit different with our system, and in the old Carolina secondary system, 2s and 3s are grouped, 4s and 5s are grouped, and then 1s are by themselves. So we kind of look at it that way too. 2s, and if you have somebody who like Caleb Wilson that could end up playing the 3, he's going to have to know the 2 through the 5. And if you have a point guard, they need to know every position. So it just varies depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I really love where you started with that. Like, it depends on your definition of shape, because the talent versus the depth is clearly part of this. And then I think the other thing that you've so astutely identified here is that I've put demarcation lines where in today's basketball, those demarcation lines are less clear of what and who is front court and what and who is a backcourt. And so that makes this endeavor more difficult. So, Coach, maybe I'll ask it to you and reframe it a little bit differently as well to help think through it. If take out Hubert Davis, put in Bill Robinson as the head coach of the Tar Heels, which of these two groups are you feeling more comfortable with? Which of these two groups do you feel like you're in a better spot as a coach with, of like, I feel comfortable that this group is going to take care of us?
Yeah, I think I feel more comfortable with the front court right now just because the talent level is a little bit higher. I don't think I have to worry about minutes. I think the minutes are maybe a little bit clearer in the front court. I think that's why you worry about it, because you worry, oh, who's going to play? That's really what everything's worried about right now. So I think I worry less about the front court, because I think with Caleb Wilson's minutes, with Henry's minutes, those are going to be two guys that are going to take up a large share of the minutes. So I think I worry much less about that right now. And I think there's still a lot more to be earned. Guys are going to have to prove themselves to get minutes in the backcourt. I think that's really where the more competitive battles are going to be on a daily basis.
Yeah, like we so often talk about role definition and how important it is for, particularly like at the lower low, like high school and college, less so than NBA. There's just something about, as kids are still learning the game and learning what to do, like the more clear defined role definition you have, the more successful your team will typically be. And I agree with you. I think some people look at it as, hey, we got to stockpile talent everywhere we can. But that can also be a hindrance, right? Because then guys are expecting certain minutes and certain things, and they might not get it. And so that's the rub there, is that balancing act of having enough guys where you're safe if there's injuries or if somebody didn't work out, but not so many where people are getting frustrated because their role isn't what they hoped or thought it might be. And I'm with you. As I look at the front court, I think currently it is more well defined as to what it is, who the leaders in the clubhouse are for getting the most minutes and things like that. Now, maybe for fans, the backcourt is more fun because, as you said, we're going to get to watch that play out and see how it rolls around. But then, Coach, I think that all comes back around to the conversation of, in this day and age, how many guys do you want on your roster? Obviously this is the new year of roster limits, but previous to this, it had been 13 scholarships was the max. And most teams, including Carolina, weren't using 13 scholarship level player slots, right? About 10 or 11. And then the rest you would fill out with scholarship level players. And so I think there's maybe a couple, at least one of these guys we would not say is necessarily scholarship level player, but Carolina has now used 12 probably scholarship level scholarships on this team. So does that make it a more complicated mix?
Yeah, there was a comment on last week's show that I did about, well, is this a knee jerk reaction? We were, lacking some big last year. Now we're overreacting and getting more bigs this year. We had a similar situation with that last year, where we ended up getting a grad school guy late that we really liked a lot, but we really didn't need him, and his role didn't turn out the way he wanted it to be, and he ended up leaving. And Hubert and I talked about this a couple years ago. He just like, I don't, in his words, he didn't want to have 13 scholarship players, guys who actually expected playing time in every year, and he didn't want to have to figure out how that 12th 13th guy, and they're not going to be happy. They come in expecting time, and I think that's why Ivan's addition's a good thing. And I do think the guards, it's going to be super competitive. There's going to be guys that they're going to want to play, and somebody's going to be the odd man out, and somebody's not going to play as much as what they think, and that could lead to somebody leaving. And I just don't think that that's a bad thing anymore. And for years it was, oh, guys are leaving your program, that's a bad sign, and that's flipped now. Guys are leaving a lot easier now than ever before, and it's not necessarily about the relationships or about the state of your program. It's just what's best for them. And the me has taken over a lot for at least from the player's perspective.
And it's interesting to think about all that conversation you just had about Ivan and how he fits in. Let's take out Ivan Matlekovic and bring back in Van Allen Lubin. And then the front court is a more complicated mix because that's a higher level player expecting more minutes there. Certainly gives you more comfortability at the 5 behind Henri Veesaar. But I think in some ways that clearing out of talent and bringing in somebody that knows he's not going to be a starter or play a big role probably helps in the long run with team dynamics and chemistry, unless you're thinking differently.
I like Van Allen Lubin, and I know there's a lot of people because of where he went and now the relationship and but the time I spent around him was good time, and I liked him, and I thought he played great, and I really was disappointed when he left. I didn't want him to leave, but when that happens, you have to move on, and you make those adjustments along the way, and I do hope James Brown. I think I've heard the comments, I've seen the comments, heard the talk about his body and how much it's changed. Even the beach pictures, people are like, man, he just looks like a different player. And I hope that does transition into his game and getting more time. But we all know that he's a wonderful kid and he has some leadership qualities with him too. But I think with Van Allen Lubin leaving, it gives James an opportunity to at least get some time to at least prove himself and see if he has the ability to step up and get some minutes.
Okay, so let's talk more about James and the front court. Now that we've looked at front court versus backcourt, let's dive in deeper onto each front court. What's the depth chart going to be? Where does James Brown and the rest of the guys fit in? We'll have that conversation in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following all this action anyway, so why not make it even more engaging? Well, with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are off getting burnt at the beach, man. You can use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups. The app is great because it keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and always fun ways to get in on the action. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like appointment viewing. So whether you're placing a same game parlay or watching a bet ride right on into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're always part of all the action. How about some Wooden Award odds ahead of next season? Purdue point guard Braden Smith leads the way at plus 400, followed by Kansas freshman Darren Peterson at plus 850. Then a couple other freshmen, Cam Boozer at Duke plus 1,100, AJ DeBanza at BYU plus 1,200, and Texas Tech's JT Toppin also at plus 1,200. So new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Coach, let's continue this investigation of the roster now that we believe it is full with these 13 players and everything there. I want to next look at the front court. I'm going to give you the players alphabetically by surname so that we're not, poisoning the well, I guess, as it were. But then I want us to go about the endeavor of ranking these guys in terms of where we see them on the front court depth chart going into the season. And I know that's different because it's not like six guys battling for one position. So let's make that caveat right out of the gate. But alphabetically, if I've done my ABCs correctly, James Brown, Jaden Young, Ivan Matlekovic, Jarin Stevenson, UVW, Henri Veesaar, Caleb Wilson to round it out. Coach, how would you order those six guys according to depth chart?
James Brown to me is a backup five. He'd be your first five off the bench if they wanted to stay big. I think it could be a situation where they go small. And again, it gets complicated a little bit. But I think that's where he's at right now. It's hard as coaching staff to have a lineup in your head in August, knowing that the guys are going to prove themselves in practice. But again, you're talking about right now with what I know and what I've seen. That's where he would be. Jaden Young would be next. I believe alphabetically. Is that what we talked about?
Yes.
Yeah. I've got him at third string 4 right now, and I think he's going to play. Let's just get that out there right now. He's going to play. I think he's going to play early. I don't think Hubert would have taken the chance to bring him back with everything that's going on off the court if he didn't plan on him seeing some minutes. So I think he's going to see rotation minutes early, just to prove that see what he's got. Give him the opportunity. And he's done some good things. Saw good things this summer, and I think he is going to get some time. But right now, I think Jarin Stevenson's just a little bit ahead of him with that. So
Matlekovic would be next.
Matlekovic, I think he's just in my mind right now. He's still a practice player. He's a third string 5. I think he's going to end up very little minutes at all. I think he may play 4 or 5 games total, maybe play a total of 15 to 20 minutes for the year. But his value is going to be in practice, being able to push Henry. Just like James Brown is, but he's an insurance policy. I think we all know that. I don't think anybody's expecting big minutes from him, but he does have 3 years eligibility. He is 7 foot, and he is going to be valuable, in practice on a daily basis. I think he's going to be excited about being at Carolina. I think he's going to bring a different type of energy than they just don't have anybody else quite like him.
Yeah. Coach, before we move on to the other guys, it's funny there. It's the back 3 alphabetically, but also probably the top 3 depth chartily speaking. With Ivan Matlekovic, I think something a lot of people might not understand. Like I've seen a lot of national people, you and I, it's funny because last Thursday we talked about like the role he would play if he did come and then he committed that day. And then a lot of people were like, what is Carolina doing? Why would they add, just trying to get, and it's like, clearly you don't understand roster construction and how important someone like this is. You did such a good job last week talking about it. But something I realized I didn't ask you to say that I'd love for you to explain a little bit. We're about to talk Caleb Wilson, Henri Veesaar, Jarin Stevenson. For them, playing on the court in game is clear and obvious and duh. I feel like for Matlekovic, just stepping foot on the floor to get his name in the box score, that is the reward, and that is the ideal dream, right? Like, can you speak to how much, like, I described it last week as similar to being to Rudy, the movie Rudy, where he worked his butt off at practice and just getting into that game against Georgia Tech, that was the reward for him.
Yeah, the difference is that he's 7 foot and Rudy was not, and that he still has the skills and he's still got the length and the physical attributes to be a very valuable piece of the puzzle. Doesn't mean it has to be during the 40 minutes of a game. It just means that you have to have somebody who's available to be able to push these guys. We talked about a little bit about playing time too. He's not going to get a whole lot of playing time. Game days are going to be days off for him. So the day after or the practice after, he's going to be ready to go, and he's going to make sure that those guys don't take a day off. That they're still against somebody who's energetic and ready and wanting to be able to compete on a daily basis. And you need somebody like that, and somebody who's not really expecting a whole lot of playing time. In today's world, they needed somebody else who was not expecting a whole lot of NIL money. So he was the perfect fit for what they were looking for. They just needed somebody to come in and fit that role, and I think he's going to be fine with it. And again, somebody else who's not expecting a whole lot of playing time. He's not going to be pissing and moaning when he's not getting minutes. He understands his role, and he's going to be ready to go. When that opportunity, if that time comes. But right now, it's a role that he's understanding and that he's accepting it, and I think he's going to thrive in it.
Love that. Thank you for that explanation. All right, Jarin Stevenson, next up.
Yeah, I think Jarin Stevenson's your backup 4. I think he's Caleb Wilson, his maybe his backup guy, but I think he's also the type that if he comes in, plays well, the possibility of moving Caleb down to play the 3 is real. And I think that's part of Zayden High's in adding to this mix too, is that if Zayden plays well, then maybe Caleb can play some 3 and they can go bigger lineups and they can move Luka to the 2. Or, we joked about moving Luka to the 1. There's a lot of different things you could do, but it depends on how well those guys play. But I think Jarin Stevenson is that guy who could be a backup 5 as well, if you wanted to go small. And I know there's been some pushback about that with some comments, on our broadcast, but at the same time, it just depends on how Hubert wants to do, how the staff wants to attack this, and what type of style they want to play. If they want to play more traditional, I think he's a backup 3, and maybe backup 4, maybe backup 3 too, depending on how they want to do it. So I just think he's very versatile, and I think he's going to be I think he's going to be used a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of minutes, and it just depends on how well he plays.
I tell you, I think Jarin Stevenson could be critical to just how good Carolina can be this year. I know we could say that about a lot of guys, but just because of the role he plays and if he lives up to potential, what it allows the staff to do with other players, there's so much there, Coach. All right, Henri Veesaar.
Veesaar is going to be your guy. He's going to be your 5. I think he'll play 30, 35 minutes, and he won't play 35. He'll go 30, 33 minutes a game. I really believe he's got the ability to step out. He's got the ability to play those back to the basket. He's got that little elbow jumper. He's got the trail three. He's not a guy who's going to get his back to the basket and get 200 free throw attempts for the year. But I do think that he'll give them a solid inside game if they feel like they have an advantage in there. So I think he's very versatile. I think he's going to be your starting five, and I think you're going to put the ball in his hands a ton and allow him just to play.
And of course, finally, Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy. And I think you got to, and as much as we've talked about him, he needs to have the ball in his hands and a lot. I mean, if he doesn't touch it down the floor, there's got to be something there in the system to make sure that he touches the ball, on a regular basis. Not that he's got to get a shot every time down the floor, but I believe in him as a scorer, as a passer, as a distributor, as a facilitator. I think he can do a lot of different things with the ball in his hands. They just need to get him touches. And the more touches he gets, the better the Heels will be.
That's a good word. All right, so there's your front court. Next, we got to transition and have the same conversation about the backcourt, which, as Coach has already told us, is a bit of a muddier picture. So we'll have that conversation and try to unpack it and unwrap it in just a second. All right, Coach, same thing we just did with the front court. Let's transition now and do that with the backcourt. Let me give it to you same as we did previously in alphabetical order by surname. So we've got Luka Bogavac, Isaiah Dennis, Dererick Dixon, Kyan Evans. Then we slide all the way to the P's, Jonathan Powell, Seth Trimble, and Jaden Young. This is a front end of the alphabet versus back end of the alphabet kind of battle. Coach, let's start with the man we're all waiting to come to Carolina from Montenegro, Luka Bogavac.
Yeah, I think he's your starting wing right now. I think he'll start at the 3. Again, a lot of time between now and the first game. But if we're going to start today, that's where he would be. I think he's got the game to play on the wing. He can, again, he can pass, he can shoot. I love all the different highlights of him just being able to come off ball screens and either shoot behind ball screens or make great passes from there. So I think that's going to factor in a lot on what they do system-wise on the offensive end.
Man, I'm very excited for what, Carolina ceiling changes dramatically the second he steps foot on campus. Very excited for that. Isaiah Dennis, one of the 3 freshmen.
I got Isaiah as a backup point guard right now. I think he's talented. I think he's very good. I just don't think he's experienced enough right now to get major time. But I think he could be a rotation guy right away. It just really depends on his development in the next few weeks. Saw him play really good at times, and I saw him struggle. Not really struggle, just kind of see him disappear some in those open gym runs early on where he just didn't get a whole lot of touches. And that could be more of a factor of him being a freshman and being new and just not having a whole lot of trust in him yet. And but I do think he's talented enough to play. When it means significant minutes as a backup, you're talking 6 to 8 minutes a game.
Okay. Let's go the third of the 3 freshmen then, Dererick Dixon.
I love Dererick Dixon, and I think he's more in a situation as those 2, Isaiah Dennis and Dererick Dixon. Again, they could be backup 1s or backup 2s. I mean, it's hard, and maybe Dixon plays more at the 1 and Dennis plays more at the 2. It really depends on how they fit into whatever system they're going to be playing. And it's hard for me to know that because I don't know how they're going to play them. I like Dixon a little bit better than Isaiah Dennis, and I think he can play minutes at the 1 and the 2, and he could end up eating into those Isaiah Dennis minutes where he may not play as much, and Dixon may end up getting the 8 to 10 minutes instead of splitting those minutes between the 2 of them. So that's the biggest battle I see, and it's not a sexy one. It's not a real interesting one for everybody to be, super interested in. But for me, those are the minutes. Who's going to fight for those backup minutes between the 2 of them? And right now, if it's today, it's Dererick Dixon's going to get more of those minutes, I think, than Isaiah.
And remember, folks, this is coming from a man who has literally been right there by them, watching them and seeing them. So this is not just from afar watching it. Coach Rob has seen these guys up close. So keep that in mind as you think about where this is coming from. Assuming we have a second, Coach, I want to circle back around to that and kind of tier some of those backup minutes things once we've talked about these final 4 guys as well. Kyan Evans.
Yeah, Kai Evans is your point guard right now. I think he showed that he can run a team. He knows how to lead. He can score. He can shoot. He can run a program. He can make passes depending on what they need. I just don't think he needs to score with this group. I think if he can stay in front of the ball and defend and be that dog at the defensive end. One thing I would love to see them do, and this will take minutes away from him, but if they could get him to pick up, 94 feet and then bring Dererick Dixon in and guard 94 feet and then bring Isaiah Dennis in and guard 94 feet. I just see that could be something that could be very different, something I haven't done in before, and make him look a little bit tougher from a defensive perspective. But I think he's your point guard. And again, I don't think he has to play 35 minutes a game with the depth that they have with Seth Trimble's ability to play multiple positions. But I do think he could play, 20, 25 minutes a game and be the point guard that they need for this team to be successful.
Jonathan Powell.
Jonathan Powell's going to play. When he makes shots the way he does, and I think Luka's obviously his impact's going to affect Jonathan Powell a lot. But minutes wise, I think he'll play more minutes than Dererick and Isaiah. I think when he makes shots, he's going to play a lot. And I also think he makes enough shots in practice, and in I think Coach Davis has seen that enough that if he goes through a dry spell where he doesn't shoot the ball particularly well, he's going to still get minutes. They're going to keep playing him because he's proved that he can shoot the ball at a high level, and I think he's going to play, and he'll play a lot early, and allow him just to be a Tar Heel and see what happens.
All right, that's the guy I really want to mix into leveling there with the two freshman guards. So I'm glad you kind of already did that. Seth Trimble.
That's the guy. He's your senior. He's your leader. I do see him playing a lot of minutes, 30, 35 minutes. I think he could lead the team in minutes. You would think that Caleb Wilson maybe, but I think because of the pace of the game and the way that it is played, and I think Seth will play more minutes just because he also can play the one, he can play the two, he can play the three, and as your leader's going to be on the floor as much as possible. So I do think he'll play. I think he'll start at the two. I think he can play the one. I think he can play the three, just depending on how they want to run the system.
I love that. Between Seth Trimble and Caleb Wilson for most minutes played, completely agree there. And finally, Jaden Young.
Jaden Young, I think, is again strong, physical. I think he's a scorer more than a shooter. Right now, I got him as a third string three. I think it could be a third string two. I think he can play a different role. I think he's happy being a Tar Heel. I think he understands that the fight is real for him. And I think he's going to have to fight through a lot of things to get there. Every year you have one guy in your program, from my perspective, that you didn't expect to step through and pass people. But as of, in August right now, 2025, he's going to have to pass two or three people to be able to get significant minutes in the program right now. That's how I feel. But he could be a backup two, backup three, in my opinion.
So, Coach, if I'm processing how you're saying this, it almost feels like there's a couple tiers at play here. There's a tier one, which is the three guys you projected as starters: Kai Evans, Seth Trimble, Luka, Bogavac. And then it feels like like Jonathan Powell is like right there in tier two, but just ever so slightly. Mm-hmm. And then a little bit further down to the as you well said, that great battle between Dererick Dixon and Isaiah Dennis for who gets those like fifth most minutes in the backcourt. And then Jaden Young maybe kind of in a tier by himself just after those guys. Am I tiering that out in a way that makes sense with what you just said about these guys?
Yeah, Jaden Powell's really close. If he's not in tier one, he's in tier 1A or B, or whatever you want to say. He's really close because I think he's you could start any of those four guys and feel pretty comfortable about it. I think that's the depth that they're excited about, how this is going to play out during the season, during preseason, and how that all works out. But yeah, I do. I don't think Jaden Young's quite in that second tier yet. I would love to be able to watch Dererick Dixon and Isaiah Dennis. I'm going to mix that up all year.
Oh, same.
I specifically, if I get to a practice early, which I'm hoping I do, just watch those two guys go at it. Just don't put them on the same team. Let's let them battle. And I think that's, again, I just think those guys, watching them interact, I think they like each other. I think they're excited about being together, and I think they'll battle. I think those are the type of guys that can go out there and fight and do, just play super hard against each other, and then, smack each other on the back on the way off the court and say, hey, let's go, let's go get some canes on the corner of this, Franklin Street and go hang out for a little bit. They just seem to have that kind of relationship.
And very, very much an iron sharpen iron situation with them building each other up. And I don't want you all to hear us making them into being the same player, even though we're pitting them against each other, right? Like Dixon is clearly, to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, the better shooter. Dennis has these other, probably a little bit more athletic skill sets than Dixon. So they do some different things, but again, they're going to fight for some similar minutes.
Yeah, I think Dixon is probably more consistent shooter. I think Isaiah Dennis may be a more streaky. I think when he gets going, I think he can shoot it maybe better. But it's that streakiness right now, more consistency. And I think Derek does maybe a little bit more on the defensive end too, from what I've seen. Again, it's a very small sample size. And I don't feel comfortable talking about my guys, so I've seen him for a year. So, it's hard to make these assumptions early on and try to really make and do it accurately. It's tough.
Yeah. All right, Coach, last thing we want to hit on today, a little bit of some fun stuff. Last weekend, you had the opportunity to go to the MLB Speedway Classic. They're in Bristol, very close to you, at about 40 minutes from campus there at Milligan, between my beloved Braves, who are awful, although they did win, and the Cincinnati Reds. I would just love for you to share some of that experience.
Yeah, the cool thing that I just didn't expect is that it being a neutral site, you had a lot of baseball fans that just wanted to be there. There was over 90,000 people there. And, of course, we got rained on Saturday night. Had to come back on Sunday and play. But to see jerseys from the Montreal Expos and from, just about every team in the major leagues, from the Yankees to the Dodgers, the Padres, it's just everybody. There was a whole group of Phillies fans there, and it was just really cool. But the coolest jersey I did see, a baseball jersey with the Tar Heels on it. And so it was a young lady who walked in and she had her Tar Heels jersey on. It was pretty cool too. So Sunday I went back and I wore all Tar Heels stuff, wore my Tar Heels hat, wore my Tar Heels basketball jersey, or just a shirt. And of course, walking out after the game, heard "Go Heels!" and go Heels! And it just kind of, so even in Bristol, Tennessee, you still got your Tar Heel fans, which I did wear it on purpose just to see if I could get a reaction from somebody. But it's always cool to go to even a baseball game and see Tar Heel gear. It was a lot of fun.
Man, that's so cool. I'm so glad you got to do that. Very jealous. I'm also trying to figure out why on earth my parents didn't go. They live right there too. Wild. Just terrible decision on their part. And I know they listen and watch every show. I love you guys. Go Braves. So, Coach, such a fun show. So great to be together. As always, looking at this roster, folks, we'd love to know your takes on the roster as well. If you want to do that, you can hop into the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, which is free to join. That link's in the show notes. If you want to go even deeper with us, join the Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the show to make sure you're with us every day, every show, make sure you do that on YouTube. You can click that subscribe button right over there. Subscribe on your favorite audio platform as well. And also, don't forget to get Coach's book, Carolina Basketball School, man. It is a great read. If you're doing a last-minute beach trip before you head to school, man, that's some good stuff. Just don't get it sandy. All right, guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. You know the deal. We'll be back again tomorrow to wrap the week. But until then, peace.